Hi, and welcome to our live session. So, live stream for today is phrasal verbs for tech, healthcare, hospitality, and more. So, I'm Coach Nant, and welcome to our channel. So, I've seen subscribers from IT, and I also came from IT. So, I worked in an international school here in Bangkok for tech for the tech department. So this episode is a bit of like a biased title. That's why I named it for IT. But you can use these phrasal verbs for any industry. So most of you are also in hospitality and healthcare. And if you are from any other industry, don't forget to leave a comment down below, okay, so that we can create content for your industry. And today we're going to talk about phrasal verbs again. So for our live sessions, that's my favorite topic, phrasal verbs, because phrasal verbs are very useful when you are communicating with a foreign boss, or maybe you have coworkers from other countries, and native speakers love phrasal verbs. It makes your conversation with your colleagues more nuanced, like when you're using idioms or idiomatic expressions, it's the same thing. So it makes your conversations more interesting. So without further ado, let's discuss the three phrasal verbs that you can use for your industry, but a little bit of bias with the IT because I encountered this through the years of working with the tech department. Okay, the first phrasal verb is to sign off on. Okay, what do you mean by that? When you hear that phrasal verb, to sign off on. So not to be confused with vocabulary. Vocabulary words are different from phrasal verbs. Okay, so for phrasal verbs, that's why we're trying to come up with a theme, because you can use this depending on the theme, so you can remember it more. So there's this technique or hack to hack your brain to remember these phrasal verbs if it's related to a theme. So it could be your industry. So to sign off on, it's more formal than to agree to. So instead of saying to agree to, native speakers, they use to sign off on. So for example, for the IT industry, you can say we need the director to sign off on the deployment. So you deploy the software, the apps. And for our friends in the healthcare industry, if you're working in the hospital, you can say the head nurse must sign off on the shift change. So to agree to. So phrasal verbs make it more nuanced. Okay, so your conversation with someone can be a bit different. So not too basic. So instead of saying agree to, so you can just say to sign off on. And like what we did before, we normally say that you should use the concept of sentence modeling. So if you use sentence modeling, you can still use this in your industry. So how will you model this sentence according to your industry? So for example, you're working in finance. So example, it's not healthcare. So you say the CFO, right? So you say CFO, like Chief Financial Officer. The CFO must sign off on the financial report change. Okay, so if you're doing like a financial report for your company and a CFO needs to sign it, so you can say sign off on. Okay, so it's not just for IT. So you can use it depending on your industry. So you can use this exercise like sentence modeling in order for you to practice different styles. Okay, so you can just change the subject, the verb, but this one we stick to the phrasal verb sign off on. Okay, so sign off on. What else? We need the director to sign off on. Example, you're working in hospitality, like in a hotel. So you can say, we need the manager to sign off on the shift change. Yeah, it's okay because in a hotel you also assign shifts, right? So maybe the bellboy or the supervisor will have like a swap in in their shift, so you can also use it to sign off on. Means to agree to. Second, what's the second phrasal verb? To roll out. So this is very common with IT and tech stuff. If you watch Transformers, you will hear that the who's that? Who's the in the Transformers? Who's the main robot there? The head, Optimus Prime, right? So he has this line like Autobots roll out. So with his voice like Autobots roll out. So he that's why we relate this to tech. Okay, so roll out means to launch or implement. So it sounds more like you have more power, authoritative, than to start. So instead of saying to start, you can say roll out. So you try to launch. So in IT, we use that like this, like we're rolling out the new CRM system next week. So CRM, we have different meanings for CRM, but basically it's like customer relations management or something like that, like a CRM. Like in my previous company or the international school I worked with, we used HubSpot as the CRM. So CRM, we're rolling out. It's like you're starting to use it. We're rolling out the new CRM system next week. So if you're in hospitality, if you're working in a hotel or a restaurant, you can also use this phrasal verb. The hotel is rolling out a new guest check in procedure. So that's one of your SOPs or standard operation procedures. Okay, so you can use that. If you're in finance, how do you use a rollout? We're going to roll out the new policy for our budget allocation, right? So that's a common line from CFOs, and yeah, my friends in the finance team they normally use this like, oh, we have a new policy for the finance or the budget. Okay, so if you need to request something, please let us know in advance, like 2 weeks or a month notice for them to prepare the budget in order to procure. So that's another term, procurement. So when you procure, you buy, you purchase things. So in your company, you might have like a separate department for your purchasing or procurement team. Yeah, so you can use roll out. So you can also use that if you're the head of your procurement or purchasing team. You can also say, we're rolling out the new policy when when you are requesting for a budget for this equipment. If your department or your team needs to buy something, you need to follow the new rules. So we're rolling that out. Okay, so you can also use it that way. We're rolling out the new policy. So it's like we're going to launch or we're going to start. So it doesn't sound too boring. Like when you speak, you always use start. I want to start this. So instead of that, you can say, I will roll out this new policy. So if you are the chief in that department, if you are the CTO, or maybe you're a chief technical officer. So you can say, we're rolling out this new policy when it comes to borrowing of equipment. Yeah, you can also use that. Like maybe in your company, you have like a professional camera that everyone's trying to borrow, and sometimes it can be a problem. So I've been there. I'm the guy who keeps those equipment, and sometimes you can lose track. And it's okay to roll out new policies when it comes to borrowing of equipment in order for you to minimize chaos. So we don't want chaos. Okay, so let's go to phrasal verb number three. Phrasal verb number three is to write up. What what do you mean when you say to write up? So to document or formally summarize. So you summarize, you make it easier to understand. So it's like a book. When you have a book, you read everything, and sometimes you can have like a headache because there's too much text to read. So you summarize it to someone. Okay, so you summarize for another team to make it easier to understand, or easier to digest. Okay, so it's more professional sounding rather than saying to write it down. So how do you use it? So in our department in IT before, we always say, please write up the issue for the change control board. Okay, write up, to write down. And in any other industry, you can also say, I need you to write up the Q3 project summary, or quarter three project summary. So if you are a project manager for a team, yeah, you can always use this phrasal verb to write up the Q4 project summary. Okay, so you can always use sentence modeling for this. So you can change that according to your industry. So if you are in, let's say, so we have hospitality, or you work in healthcare. So for healthcare, how do you use this to write up? I need you to write up the patient report, or yeah, so there might be incident reports in your hospital. So if you're the head nurse, you always say that you need to write up the the weekly report for, or the incident report. So what happened during your shift from this time to maybe from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. So how do you write up those reports? So you summarize, okay? So these are things that you can use for your daily conversations, or maybe via email. You can use these phrasal verbs. Okay. And if you reach this point, I know that you are serious with your English proficiency. And we all know that you cannot just learn English by listening or watching videos. You need to be active, and you need to speak out in order for you to learn. So during my early years when I was in the university, so I started with reading, but when it comes to speaking, I also struggled a lot, and I normally stutter whenever I speak publicly. So in order for you to get that burden of being always being nervous, you need to practice speaking. And the best way to improve your speaking skills is by conversing with someone. And if you have this connection with someone, even through the internet, it's okay. You learn faster. So if you are serious with that, you can always go to our website. You can send us a message by going to thenglishcrew.com/contact and just express your intention of learning one on one, or maybe you have a company who would like to learn in groups. Okay, so we can also do that. So I also teach, I have a team who can train your company in order for you to develop your speaking skills. Okay, so again, let's have the final review. The first is to sign off on. Okay, so to agree to. It's more formal than to agree to sign off on. Number two is to roll out or to start something. To roll out a new policy or a new rolling out new policy, new rules for the company. Okay. Number three is to write it down, or to formalize and summarize. Okay. For other people to understand it better. Okay. So I hope you can leave us a comment down below. There's also a free 45-minute strategy call if you would like to connect with us, so that we can plan your one-on-one coaching or maybe group coaching. So I'll leave a link down below. So there will be like a Calendly link that I created. So it's the free 45-minute one-on-one session. Okay, so that we can plan your um, career improvement. So if you would like to get promoted and you would like to have more confidence when it comes to speaking publicly or maybe communicating with your team, so you can always contact us. So I'll see you again in our next live session. Okay, and have a good day.